What's up, guys? Day 5 of our video lecture. You know what today is? It's Wednesday. 2 things. 5 minutes of study. I'm just kidding. You have pretty much all day. You got your quiz today. Make sure you're taking it on Canvas. Just go to the quizzes section. Remember, it's all 32 vocab words. It is matching. You have all day to take it. It's due at 11:59, so make sure you're getting on that. And second, you know what day it is? Come on. Okay. That's right. It's Wednesday, so let's get rolling, okay? This will be my last video lecture. I may post this at say hi message tomorrow for you guys on Thursday. Make sure you're finishing up your reading questions and vocab. Friday is your assessment. I will get it out there Friday morning to you guys. And then make sure by tomorrow night, on Thursday night, you have any of your questions into me for the video lecture that I'll post Friday morning. Okay? We're almost there. We got today and 2 more days and then spring break, all right? And then hopefully we'll be all back together there come April 6th. Can't wait. Really miss you guys. And this is a lot better when it's in person. I don't know if my jokes are going over as well over video. You know, you guys usually don't laugh in class, or you're kind of the same way, especially my 8th grade. You sit there silently and stare at me. So this is very similar to what I'm used to. So actually, that's probably why these are better maybe than some of your other teachers, because I'm used to just the silence and the stares back that I'm getting out of myself as I talk to you on this video lecture. But hey, we're going to get rolling. We're going to keep talking about segregation. Again, this will be a 2-part video lecture. First part will go about 3 or 4 slides, and then we'll finish up with a really big slide at the end in part 2. But let's keep rolling through segregation. All right, we talked about segregation last time. We talked about de jure and de facto segregation, miscegenation, restrictive covenant. We also talked about segregation with Plessy versus Ferguson, the Supreme Court case. We talked about Jim Crow laws. So a lot of that stuff should have been reviewed from Reconstruction, or at least I hope it was. If not, now you got it going back in your mind and we're ready to keep rolling, okay? So the next part of segregation, we're going to talk about segregation in the workplace, because this was very evident. And they did this for a few reasons. 1, educationally, and 2, financially, all right? A lot of white Southern society did not want to see African Americans and other minorities start to catch up with them on the socioeconomic scale. So how do you do that? Well, you give them a lack of education. And second, you don't allow them to get jobs that pay well. So few African Americans held white-collar jobs, all right? You know, remember we talked about white-collar being that service sector, lawyers, doctors, teachers, nurses, and the financial sector, okay? All areas where you need a college education, okay? Most African Americans held what we would call blue-collar jobs, or agricultural skilled industry, okay? And so this takes minimal training, and it's stuff that they had done before. Hey, what's up, bud? Oh, you gonna say hi to the camera? That's my boy Hank. All right, Hank just came back from a walk. Huh? Yeah, let's get after it, Hank. All right, go outside. So a lot of jobs African Americans had are in this blue-collar industry, because you got to think back. Well, when they were slaves, they worked in agriculture, manual labor, unskilled. During Reconstruction and during the early part of industrialization, they were sharecroppers and tenant farmers. Again, that's an unskilled labor job that is blue collar. And so even during the Great Migration, when they're moving north and going into the factories, they're still working in a blue collar industry and don't have a lot of education. And you have to think about all the laws that have been set up through Jim Crow. It's really prohibiting that climb or that jump in the educational factor for African Americans. Most that were white-collar jobs that African Americans held were ministers and teachers. Think about the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Was obviously a minister and was able to connect them with the community because he had an education, and so his message couldn't be refuted by especially white society because he backed it up with the knowledge and understanding. Most African Americans worked in the agriculture or service sector. Wages were much lower than those of whites, again because of the differential in education. And discrimination in employment was a direct result of racism. People just wouldn't hire people that were minorities because they looked different than them. And you have to understand, this was for a few reasons. 1, yes, racism because of hatred, and you see this especially in the South, but also racism in the fear of if you hired a minority and you were a white Southerner and you go home, what's going to happen to your family because of the pressure put on you by the rest of society, okay? Also, the low education trapped them in these jobs. So again, everything goes back to education and the opportunities that African Americans and other minorities had in education. So, segregation in politics. They found ways to disenfranchise African Americans or deny them voting rights, all right? And they do this in multiple different ways. One way is poll taxes. The other way is a literacy test, which we talked about during Reconstruction. Obviously, you're making them pay more money. Hold on. I'll be right back. One of my kids needs me. Come on up, bud. Back in. Different one from earlier. This is Landon. Landon, come say hi. Hi. Yeah, you're on video. But guess what? It's not about you. It's for the kids. Get out of here. He's a ham. All right? So, where was I? We talked about this during... Oh, you need this open? There you go. See, bub. So, he's a lot easier to please than the other one. The other one just wanted to keep coming in and out. But I get it. It's cool. Everyone wants to be famous. So, we talked about this during Reconstruction, poll taxes and literacy tests. All right? These are stipulations because African Americans, they knew, didn't have the financial means to pay a poll tax. So that would stop them from voting. Literacy tests. Most were uneducated. But now, as we're in the 1950s, 1960s, a lot of African Americans have money. They are educated to the point where they can read and write and do that sort of thing. And so those aren't going to be as effective anymore. So they start going to things such as like white primaries. Well, we almost just had primary. It got pushed to July 2nd. But you're seeing a lot of primaries happening right now for presidential candidates. A white primary, this is a primary election in which only whites could participate. Well, if you only allow whites to participate in the primary, guess who they're probably going to elect? Someone like them or someone that's white. So when it comes to the general election, yes, they're going to let African Americans vote, but do they have a candidate that actually represents them? I don't think so, right? The only person that they can choose is who the white Southerners chose for them, which is someone that's going to be, obviously, for Jim Crow laws, for segregation, and for disenfranchising African Americans. African Americans had no political representation throughout the South and throughout a lot of the United States. And so this really hurts their efforts to try and move forward, especially with the civil rights litigation. In 1944, the Supreme Court said white primaries were unconstitutional, which they're right, it is. It's extremely unconstitutional because you're only allowing a portion of American society to have a voice or have an opinion. Gerrymandering was another thing. Gerrymandering was another method used to discriminate. They redrew district lines to eliminate black votes. Now, you guys have probably heard gerrymandering today, but today we use gerrymandering to discriminate against different political groups, so whether it's Republicans or Democrats. Think of that the same way. So today they redraw district lines so either more Republicans or more Democrats can be in the House or in the House of Representatives or represented at the state level. When they did it in the South during the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, during this civil rights movement, they would redraw district lines and divide up African American or minority areas so more white votes would go over top of the minority vote so that then they would have a white representative, and so there would be no representative for a minority group. Or if there was, there would just be one, and it'd be overruled by the other 20, 30, 40, whatever it may be, representatives that come from the white areas. Now, shifting gears to something that I'm really passionate about, breaking the color line in sports. Because the first one we start with is a baseball player, and you guys probably all know who it is. In 1945, Jackie Robinson crossed the color line. This is when Brooklyn Dodgers manager Branch Rickey signed Jackie Robinson to be part of the Brooklyn Dodgers. Now, you guys all know Branch Rickey. Why? Ohio Wesleyan, right? The gym at Ohio Wesleyan is named after Branch Rickey because that's where he attended college. All right, and that's why we have Branch Rickey Way, the drive there. How many of you have seen the movie 42? Come on, I know you guys have seen this, all right? This is the movie about Jackie Robinson because he wore the number 42. It's also a number that's retired throughout every single major league stadium because of the significance of what he did as an athlete and socially by breaking the color line. Fans did not take this kindly. When Jackie Robinson first came into the league, fans taunted him, they booed him, they said racial slurs to him. And this was really hard for him because he knew he couldn't retaliate. If he retaliated, he lost all that he was trying to accomplish by showing that he was an equal person. Not an athlete, just an equal person to those that he was playing against. Now, a little background on Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson just wasn't a baseball player. He was a phenomenal athlete, all right? He competed, his brother competed in the Olympics. He was a track athlete at UCLA. He was a football player at UCLA, played basketball, and played baseball. So you can see this is a guy that athletically is really good. All right, stay down. But at the same time, he served in World War II, and so he understands pressure and what it's like to serve his country. And that's what he's doing here. He's serving his country, but especially serving minorities and helping them get equal rights. Some of his own teammates resented playing with Jackie Robinson, so that was really tough for him to handle. You know, people that were supposed to be there for him kind of shunned him away, and he struggles with that a lot because he doesn't have anyone he can turn to. But the one person he can turn to is the owner of the team, Branch Rickey. So guess what? He'll get rid of those guys, and he'll bring guys in that are accepting and want to participate with Jackie Robinson. Other professional sports began to open up to African Americans and other minorities. By the 1950s, the color line in sports is completely disappearing. We're not seeing that distinction of all white sports and then having minority leagues such as in baseball that they had. Now everything's integrated when it comes to athletics, all right? Next thing, desegregation of the armed forces. The military remained segregated after World War II until an incident occurred, and this is usually when everything starts to change. There has to be a problem or an incident for people to take action. Well, this is known as the Isaac Woodward incident. He is a veteran, and he is beaten by police on his return home from World War II. So after fighting the Nazis in Europe, he comes home, he's on a bus, he's in North Carolina, which obviously we know is a segregated state, a southern state. He gets off the bus to go to the restroom, and he is savagely beaten because of his race. Now, our president at the time has a real problem with this. He became blind because of the attack, and President Truman is enraged because Truman just can't fathom. He's like, how can someone sacrifice himself for this country, possibly be get killed in war and serve valiantly overseas, but then return home, and they're actually more unsafe at home than they were fighting an enemy. And that's something that he wants to figure out, and it's something that he will not stand for. So again, we talk about where can you end segregation first? The military. Why? He has total control over it. He doesn't have control over schools. That's his state. He doesn't have control over restaurants. That's someone's own business. But the military, the president controls. So, on July 26, 1948, Truman signed Executive Order 9981, and it desegregated the United States military. And this is monumental because it is like the first crack into segregation, right? And it's such a long crack because guess what? These soldiers are going to serve together and they're going to be integrated. So once they get out of the military and they go home, what are they going to be used to? They're going to be used to an integrated society. And that's what they're going to start pushing in the United States. So when the civil rights movement really heats up and you have African Americans having marches and bus boycotts in the South, you're going to have white Northerners and white Southerners who served in the military with these minority groups who are going to stand next to them and say, hey guys, I was part of an integrated unit. I've served, I've been a brother of, and I fought with these minority groups, and they're just like me and you. And so this is very influential. It's very powerful for them. That's part one of our lecture. We only have a few more slides. I'll get to part two for day 5. So hang in there. We'll be right back after these messages, I guess.